There is a simple mineral sitting on a garage shelf that can make a tired lawn look dramatically darker green without forcing the grass to grow like crazy. And the crazy part? You may already be spending much more money on products that are doing almost the same job. I paid about $11 for a container of this stuff, and after several seasons of using it, more than half of it is still sitting on the shelf. While some homeowners are paying $60, $70, or even $80 for professional lawn treatments just to improve their lawn's color, this simple product can cost only a few dollars per application. But there is a catch. Use too much, and instead of a beautiful dark green lawn, you can end up with black grass and stubborn stains all over your driveway. So today on Yard Doctor, I'm going to show you exactly what this product is, why it works, how much you actually need, how to mix it, when to spray it, and most importantly, the mistake you absolutely do not want to make. And I need to correct something I said in an earlier video, because that mistake could seriously damage a lawn. The product we're talking about is iron sulfate, also called ferrous sulfate. It is a mineral that usually comes as a fine crystal or powder, often with a pale green or gray-green appearance. And unlike nitrogen fertilizer, iron sulfate isn't primarily being used to push your grass into faster growth. That's the important difference. Nitrogen greens your lawn by encouraging new growth. More growth means more mowing, and during hot weather, pushing a stressed lawn too hard can create additional problems. Iron works differently. Your grass needs iron to produce chlorophyll. Chlorophyll is what gives those grass blades their green color. Iron isn't actually part of the chlorophyll molecule itself, but it plays an important role in the process that allows the plant to produce it. When iron availability is low, your lawn can look pale, yellowish, or washed out, even when there is plenty of other nutrition in the soil. And here's where things get interesting. Your soil may already contain plenty of iron. The problem can be that the grass can't access it. When soil pH becomes too high or alkaline, iron can become chemically locked into forms that grass roots struggle to absorb. This is especially worth considering if you have alkaline soil, hard water, limestone around your property, or a soil test showing a high pH. So you can keep adding nitrogen, but if the plant is struggling to access iron, you may still end up with disappointing color. A foliar iron application takes a different route. Instead of depending entirely on the roots to find available irons in the soil, the grass can absorb the dissolved mineral through the leaf. That's why the color response can be much faster. You can begin seeing a change within roughly a day, with the color becoming deeper over the next several days. Under suitable conditions, the effect can remain noticeable for around 3 to 4 weeks. That's a huge difference when you have an event coming up and your lawn looks tired. And this is also why professional turf managers have used iron for years. Think about a golf course. The superintendent wants deep, uniform color, but doesn't necessarily want to create a huge flush of growth right before an important weekend. More growth means more mowing. And on a golf course, mowing isn't just a weekend chore. It's labor, equipment, fuel, and time. So the ability to improve color without aggressively pushing growth can be extremely useful. Now here's something you should pay attention to the next time you're shopping for lawn products. Look at products advertised with phrases like deep green, dark green, or color boost. Then turn the bag around and look at the guaranteed analysis. You may find iron listed as one of the ingredients helping produce that color. I'm not saying those products are useless, and I'm definitely not saying fertilizer is a scam. Your lawn still needs proper nutrition. The important point is that color and plant nutrition are not exactly the same job. You can use fertilizer to provide nutrients your lawn needs, while iron can be used as a tool for improving color. And sometimes paying for a fancy green-up product means you're paying a premium for an ingredient you could purchase much more cheaply on its own. That's where this simple iron sulfate trick becomes interesting. But before you run out and buy it, there is something you absolutely need to understand. The amount matters a lot, because this is where people can get into trouble. And this is also where I need to correct my own previous advice. In an earlier video, I told people to use 1 cup of iron sulfate per gallon of water. That was wrong. And I'm telling you that directly because I don't want anyone following that old advice and damaging their lawn. The cup is not the dose for 1 gallon of water. The cup is the approximate amount for the entire treatment area. For the rate discussed in this method, approximately 1 cup of iron sulfate treats about 4,000 square feet of lawn. If your lawn is around 8,000 square feet, that would mean approximately 2 cups at the full rate. If you're treating around 2,000 square feet, you're looking at approximately half a cup. And if this is your first application, starting at half strength is the safer approach. Why? Because every lawn is different. Grass type, climate, temperature, soil conditions, moisture, and plant stress can all affect how your lawn responds. You can increase the rate during a future application if necessary. But once you overdo iron and blacken the grass, you can't simply reverse it. So don't chase darker green by dumping more product onto the lawn. The goal is controlled color, not maximum concentration. Now that you understand why iron can change the color of your lawn, let's get into the part that matters most, how to actually use it. First, you need the right product. Go to a farm supply store, feed store, or agricultural supply store and ask for iron sulfate, also called ferrous sulfate. For this method, you're looking for the granular or crystal form. A container around 4 to 5 pounds may cost roughly $8 to $15 depending on where you live and what store you use. And if you're treating a normal residential lawn, that amount can last for multiple applications. There is another product you may see sitting nearby called chelated iron. Chelated iron is still iron, but it has a protective compound around it that helps keep the iron available, particularly in higher pH soil. Chelated iron can be useful when you're trying to correct an iron availability problem through the soil, and it generally has less aggressive staining potential. But it also costs considerably more. For the foliar spray we're talking about today, plain iron sulfate is the budget option. Now let's talk numbers. The key rate is approximately 1 cup of iron sulfate per 4,000 square feet of lawn, not 1 cup per gallon. Again, don't make that mistake. For your first application, I recommend starting around half strength, half a cup for 4,000 square feet. Once you know how your particular lawn reacts, you can decide whether you need the full rate during a future application. Now comes the water. You're generally looking at roughly 1 to 2 gallons of finished spray solution per 1,000 square feet. So for 4,000 square feet, you're looking at approximately 4 to 8 gallons of total spray solution. The exact amount of water depends on how your sprayer applies liquid and how much coverage you can get from it. The important thing is that you distribute the measured iron evenly across the entire lawn. Here's how I would mix it. Start by filling your sprayer about halfway with water. Do not dump a pile of dry iron into an empty tank and then fill it completely with water. Add your measured iron after you've already added some water. Then shake or agitate the tank thoroughly. You want the crystals to dissolve as completely as possible. The finished solution should look relatively uniform, with no large gritty material sitting at the bottom. If your sprayer has a filter screen and you're worried about undissolved material, you can strain the solution before it enters the sprayer. Why does that matter? Because one clogged nozzle can ruin your application. You could end up with dark stripes where the sprayer delivered too much product and pale stripes where the nozzle was partially blocked. A simple pump-up garden sprayer can work. A backpack sprayer can be even more convenient if you're covering a larger lawn. A hose end sprayer may work too, but it generally gives you less control over the exact application rate. And control is important with iron. Now let's talk about timing. Don't spray iron sulfate across a lawn in the middle of a blazing hot afternoon. Instead, spray during the evening or very early morning when temperatures are cooler. Ideally, you want conditions where the lawn isn't already suffering from severe heat or drought stress. Remember, you're putting a mineral solution directly onto the grass blades. You want the plant to have a chance to absorb it without adding unnecessary stress. Once you've sprayed, don't immediately wash it off. This is a foliar application, which means the grass is absorbing the material through the leaf. Give the solution time to dry. A couple of hours of drying time is important, and if you can wait until the next day before irrigating, even better. So check your weather forecast before spraying. If a thunderstorm is coming an hour later, you're taking a chance of washing the treatment away before the grass gets enough benefit from it. But there is an even bigger issue you need to know about. Iron sulfate stains hard surfaces, and it can stain them badly. Concrete, brick, pavers, natural stone, stucco, and other light-colored surfaces can develop ugly rust-colored marks. It can even stain clothing. So before spraying your lawn, protect the surrounding surfaces. One easy trick is to wet down nearby concrete and other hard surfaces first. Wet surfaces generally absorb less of the solution. And when you're spraying, don't allow the spray pattern to drift across a walkway. Turn your nozzle off before you reach the driveway or sidewalk. Then, as soon as you're finished, rinse nearby hard surfaces thoroughly with clean water. Those few seconds of prevention can save you a huge cleanup job later. Wear gloves. Wear closed shoes. and wear old clothing. Because if iron sulfate gets onto your clothes, you may regret wearing your favorite shirt. Now, here's another important point. Iron is powerful, but it isn't magic. It will make the grass you already have look greener. It will not magically thicken a thin lawn. If you can see bare soil between the grass plants, iron isn't going to fill those gaps. Thin turf is a different problem. That requires proper seed, soil contact, watering, and the right growing conditions. Iron is also not a replacement for fertilizer. Your lawn still needs the nutrients required for healthy growth. Think about it this way. Fertilizer helps feed the lawn. Iron can help improve the color. Don't force one product to do two completely different jobs. And iron isn't a general weed killer either. It can suppress moss, and that can be useful in shady areas where moss is becoming a problem. But don't expect iron sulfate to eliminate dandelions or clover. Those weeds can remain perfectly happy while your grass becomes darker green. And honestly, they may become even more noticeable against that darker lawn. So understand what this treatment can do and what it cannot do. Now we're getting to the most important seasonal timing. Late August can be an especially useful window for this approach, particularly when cool season lawns are coming out of summer looking tired, faded, and stressed. Your first instinct may be to throw a heavy dose of nitrogen at the lawn. But during heat stress, that's not always the smartest move. You don't necessarily want to force a tired plant into aggressive growth during difficult conditions. Instead, iron can help improve the appearance without asking the lawn to produce a huge amount of new growth. Then, when temperatures and soil conditions become more favorable, that's when your real fall lawn program can take over. Fall fertilization, overseeding where necessary, proper watering, and the other practices that actually help rebuild the lawn. Think of iron as helping with the appearance, while your broader lawn care program handles the health. So you've got your iron sulfate, you've got your sprayer. Now let's put everything together into a simple weekend plan. First, figure out your lawn's actual square footage. Don't guess. Measure the length and width of the areas you're treating and calculate the approximate area. A lot of homeowners assume their lawn is much larger than it actually is. Once you know the square footage, you can calculate the amount of iron you need. For approximately 4,000 square feet, the full rate is about 1 cup. But for your first application, you can start with approximately half a cup over that same area and see how your grass responds. Saturday morning, pick up your iron sulfate from a farm, feed, or agricultural supply store. Look for the granular or crystal form. A 4 to 5 pound container may cost somewhere around $10 to $15 depending on the store. If you don't already have one, pick up a pump sprayer as well. You don't need an expensive piece of equipment. A basic 2-gallon pump sprayer can handle this type of job. Then, before you spray, calculate your water volume. For the 4,000 square foot example, you're looking at roughly 4 to 8 gallons of total spray solution. The exact amount depends on your sprayer and how efficiently you can cover the lawn. Saturday evening is when I would do the application. Wait until the sun has gone down enough that the lawn isn't baking in direct heat. Before you start spraying, wet down nearby driveways, walkways, patios, and other hard surfaces. Then fill the sprayer about halfway with water. Measure your iron carefully. Add it to the water. Shake or agitate the sprayer until the crystals dissolve. Then add the remaining water. Don't rush this step. If the product isn't dissolved properly, you can end up with clogged equipment and uneven application. Once everything is mixed, walk across the lawn at a steady pace. Use an even overlapping pattern. Think about the way you mow. You don't want one section getting 3 passes while another section barely gets one. Consistency is the goal. For a 4,000 square foot lawn using a 2-gallon sprayer, you may need several tank fills depending on the amount of water you're applying. Take your time. Don't try to finish as quickly as possible. A careful application is much better than rushing and accidentally doubling the amount in one area. And the moment you're finished, rinse the hard surfaces around the lawn. Then clean your sprayer. Run clean water through the tank, wand, and nozzle. Don't leave iron solution sitting inside your sprayer overnight. Your equipment will thank you. Now comes the fun part. What should you expect? You shouldn't necessarily wake up the next morning and see a completely different lawn, but you may begin noticing the color starting to change within about 24 hours. Over the next 2 or 3 days, the green can become deeper. The strongest visual effect can develop around the 3rd through 5th day. Under normal conditions, The color may remain noticeable for roughly 3 to 4 weeks, and that's one of the biggest advantages of iron. You can improve the appearance relatively quickly without using nitrogen simply to chase a darker color. But remember, this is not permanent. If your lawn is pale because the soil pH is seriously out of range, iron spray is more like a temporary solution. A useful one, a cheap one, but still temporary. If you've been feeding your lawn and it remains pale season after season, stop guessing. Get a soil test. A soil test can tell you much more about what is actually happening below the surface than repeatedly buying random lawn products. You might discover that your soil pH is too high. You might discover a nutrient imbalance. Or you might discover that the soil isn't the problem you thought it was. And that's why I always want you to think beyond the color. A dark green lawn looks great, but healthy turf is about more than color. Iron won't fix poor soil structure. It won't fill bare spots. It won't replace seed. It won't replace proper watering. It won't replace fertilizer. And it won't eliminate every weed in your yard. It is simply another tool in your lawn care toolbox. And when you use the right tool for the right job, you can save money and avoid unnecessary treatments. There's also one more benefit worth mentioning. Iron sulfate can suppress moss. If you have a shady area where moss keeps appearing, iron can cause that moss to darken and die back. But don't confuse that with controlling your regular broadleaf weeds. Dandelions and clover are a different problem. So if your lawn is suddenly darker green and your dandelions look even more obvious, don't blame the iron. You simply improve the background. Now let's talk about cost. If you're treating approximately 4,000 square feet and using around 1 cup of product, the actual amount of iron used can be surprisingly inexpensive. That's why a small container can last for multiple applications. Compare that with repeatedly paying for professional color treatments. I'm not saying professional lawn services are useless. They can provide valuable services, especially if you don't have the time or equipment to maintain your lawn yourself. But you shouldn't assume every lawn care product is some secret professional-only formula. Sometimes the same basic ingredient is sitting on a farm store shelf for a fraction of the price. And that's one of the biggest things we talk about here on Yard Doctor. Find out what actually works. Understand why it works. And don't spend $50 on something just because the package makes it sound complicated. But before you try this, remember the 3 biggest mistakes. Mistake number 1, using too much. 1 cup is not a 1-gallon dose. The approximate rate is 1 cup for around 4,000 square feet at the full rate. Start conservatively if you're unsure. Mistake number 2, spraying during extreme heat or drought stress. Don't take a stressed lawn and make the conditions even harder. Choose a cooler application window. Mistake number 3, forgetting about hard surfaces. Iron sulfate can stain concrete, stone brick, pavers, stucco, and other surfaces. Protect them before spraying and rinse them immediately afterward. Those 3 mistakes can turn a cheap lawn treatment into a very expensive lesson. And there is one final thing I want you to do. If you've used iron on your lawn before, tell me in the comments. Tell me your grass type. Tell me approximately how much iron you used. And tell me what happened. Did your lawn become darker green? Did you notice any staining? Did it last 3 weeks, 4 weeks? Or did you get almost no response? I especially want to hear from people growing different types of grass because lawns don't all respond exactly the same way. And if your lawn has stayed pale all season despite feeding it, tell me that too. Have you ever had your soil tested? Because if enough of you tell me you're dealing with the same pale lawn problem, that could be our next Yard Doctor investigation. And remember, the reason I'm emphasizing the correct rate today is because viewers called out an earlier mistake I made. That's what I want this channel to be. Not pretending I know everything, testing things, learning what actually works, and correcting mistakes when the evidence shows we got something wrong. So if you've got experience with iron sulfate, keep me honest in the comments. And if your lawn is thin, don't stop here. Iron can make existing grass look incredible while you're preparing the lawn for the next step. Because the real question isn't just how to make your lawn green. It's how to make it thick, healthy, and green. That's where proper fall preparation, overseeding, soil contact, and timing come into play. So if your lawn is thin right now, keep an eye out for the next Yard Doctor video. Because we're going to talk about the preparation step many homeowners skip, and that one mistake can determine whether your new seed actually grows or simply becomes an expensive meal for birds. Until then, Don't blindly buy the most expensive product on the shelf. Measure, understand what you're applying. Use the right amount. And take care of that lawn like a doctor would. This is Yard Doctor. I'll see you in the next one.